Thank you for joining us for today's event, Oats and Senior Planet for Colorado Libraries, presented by Deirdre Lee, manager of the National Licensing Program for Older Adults Technology Services, that's Oats from AARP, and Aaron Santis, program lead for Senior Planet Colorado. This event is being hosted by the Colorado State Library. My name is Christy Moran. My pronouns are she and aya. I am the Adult Library Services Senior Consultant, or as I'd like to say, a librarian for librarians and library staff in Colorado. Today's event will be recorded, and all registrants will receive an email with a link to the recording and a PDF of the slides and resources shared. Additionally, I'll be sharing a link to a survey at the end of this presentation. The State Library uses this survey to inform our work and to report on the value of our programming. Deirdre and Aaron will leave some time for questions at the end of the presentation. Please use the chat throughout as the questions arise for you, and I'll share them with our presenters when it's time for that Q&A. And now I'm going to turn it over to our presenters.
Wonderful. Right. Thank you so much. I'm going to share my screen here, and then I'll pass it over to Aaron. Just mentioned too, we'll put in the chat an email that you can reach us at too if you have any questions that don't get answered during this session. So I'll get that in as Aaron will kick us off.
All right, thank you so much for having us and joining us today. So we have a few things to cover that we want to share with you. And we're going to give you an overview of Oats. What is Oats and Senior Planet? Our impact areas, ways to get involved. We're going to talk about all things Senior Planet Colorado, virtual resources that we can provide as well. And we're going to talk a lot about our licensing program as well. And then we'll talk next steps. And like what was mentioned, we'll have time for Q&A at the end. So what is OATS? Older Adults Technology Services is the organization that Deirdre and myself both work for, and it's been around since 2004. This organization started in New York City, so our headquarters is based in Brooklyn, New York, and we've really expanded from 2004 on. 2013 is where the Senior Planet brand was formed when we opened our first Senior Planet Center in Chelsea, New York City. And that brand is really what our participants know us as. That's our outward-facing brand. Even though Oats is the organization, Senior Planet is really what people come to know our programs and get involved with. It's a nonprofit organization. We did become a charitable affiliate of AARP a little over 2 years ago. So we still operate under our own 503c, but we do still operate under our own Senior Planet brand. We just have the support of AARP, which is a great support system to have. And our mission is to harness the power, harness technology to change the way that we age. So we like to think of ourselves as a social change organization. It's really using technology as a tool to improve the way that you live in different impact areas, which I'm going to cover in just a moment. Next slide. So Senior Planet, our motto is aging with attitude. You can see it's also on the back of my shirt. It's a really good motto to live by. Again, we are a social change organization that really wants to change the narrative on how people view older adults, and we're using really technology as a tool. So our senior-facing programs are our centers and that Senior Planet brand. So we do have 4 centers. Well, one's going to be open soon in Miami, but our first original one was in New York City, and then we expanded to Plattsburgh, New York, where we have another center. And then we did move to Colorado, and we have a center in East Denver in Lowry. It's actually in the old Air Force Base there in Lowry that we have an actual center. I encourage people to visit, and I'll talk about what we do there in just a moment. You can join us virtually through our virtual programs that are on seniorplanet.org. Actually, I encourage you all to explore our website because we have a lot that's to offer just on our website alone, including programming and articles and information and resources. And then Deidre is going to touch more upon our licensing program, which really is expanding our footprint for programs in person outside of locations where we're not currently offering programs. And then I want to talk about our Senior Planet training model, which is really, building community and really not from the top down, but more from the bottom up, really getting people involved in decisions and development of our programs. We really like to build community and really hear from the community that we serve on what is really influencing driving our programs. So they're designed for an older adult population, and we're really teaching mainstream devices and applications that are current in society now, not things that are dated or using technology that's really kind of not relevant. So we're really keeping up with trends, that we're making sure people are involved in conversations and involved in the latest technology. And we really emphasize on partnerships. Really, we have a great partnership with the Denver library system, and we've had in the past, and we really lean on our partnerships, and they're really important to us. And we'll talk about ways that we can get involved with that more with the licensing program. So as I mentioned, we really focus on impact and teaching using technology as a tool. And these are the 5 impact areas that we really focus on for if anyone's coming to us on how to use technology for the first time. We have our foundational courses where you're teaching someone how to use a device for the first time, a computer for the first time, or a tablet. But outside of those foundational courses, we really focus on what impact and what and how technology can really affect and improve your life. So the 5 impact areas that we focus on are health and wellness, social engagement, creative expression, financial security, and advocacy. And then we have programs that are all designed around these impact areas. Our health and wellness, I will say, are our most popular programs, and we have a lot of health and wellness programs that I'll mention that are virtual, that people see a lot of value, and a lot of community has been built from those programs. So it's really been great, and it's been a testament to the community that was built for those programs, through those programs. Next slide. So I just quickly want to touch upon the different programs that we have that are virtual and in person. They're going to look a little bit different for virtual programs and in-person programs, and then for licensed programs, but this pretty much sums up the programs that we have to offer. So our fitness programs, like I had mentioned, are really popular, and that we have sometimes 900 to 1,000 people joining a Zoom fitness program. And a lot of a lot of people that are coming are repeat people that are coming weekly. So I think that's a really good testament for the success and the community that's been built, even at such a large number. And then we have discussion groups. We love to encourage community, like I had mentioned, outside of our curriculum-based programs. We love to give a platform for older adults to connect and build community. So we're doing a lot of discussion groups virtually. And we have been throughout the whole pandemic, and it's still going really well, and has been very successful. We do have an education team that develops our curriculum-based programs, and those are going to be our lectures, workshops, and program series, as well as our 5 and 10-week courses. So lectures, workshops, program series, and the 5 and 10-week courses are all designed by an in-house education team that has curriculum that supports it. So these are our core of our Senior Planet programs that we developed. So our lectures are really introducing a product or a platform. It's just giving information, and there's Q&A. They're very informative, but it's really not going in to the detail on the hands-on. Workshops are more hands-on. That is actually going to walk you through step by step on how to use a product or how to use a platform. But both of those lectures and workshops are one-time programs. Our program series are really combining our lectures and workshops over an umbrella topic to really emulate a class. And it's a series where you are getting information, and then you're taking that that step further with that hands-on experience. Our 5 and 10-week courses are only being offered currently in person, not virtually. And that is more of a commitment, but you get a lot of value out of those courses because you get a tangible textbook, and they meet for 5 weeks or those 10 weeks long, and they meet twice a week. And with that textbook, you're going to get a lot of content and a lot of information. It is quite a commitment to commit for those 5 or those 10 weeks, but the value is really there, and it's really great. And that we've had a lot of success delivering those programs in person. We also encourage guest speakers. We also partner with other organizations that are going to talk to our community about other free resources. We never want to have someone come and be a guest speaker when they're promoting something that that has a cost to it. But usually we really love to have guest speakers be participants themselves, Senior Planet participants themselves, to give a platform for older adults to exchange ideas and present their ideas or their creativity. And that's been really successful as well, both virtually and in person. And then we also like to host social events. I'll talk about things that we offer at our center in Colorado, but a lot of it is building community, like I've mentioned time and time again, is outside of our curriculum-based programs. We really want to give participants feel like they have ownership of the space as well, and to encourage them to host special events. And we do often reserve our space in Lowry for participants themselves to host social events. Oh, the slides went away. I think we lost Deirdre, so I will take this brief moment to see if there's any questions so far.
I'll keep an eye on the waiting room to see if Deirdre comes back. She may have lost internet. I don't see any questions. I did put something in, which is true. Senior Planet programs that have a virtual and they're free catalog online. I've taken some of them, kind of like to audit them to see if it was worth showing us out. I did Tai Chi in my house, learned some other programs. They were really useful. So I just want to put that out there. Deidre is back, and someone did ask now if the program series is pre-recorded. Can you answer that, Erin?
So none of our curriculum-based programs are pre-recorded. They are all live sessions. So unfortunately, no. We do have a few of our programs that are pre-recorded that you can find on helpful resources on our website. And I can show you at the end how to find those resources. We do have YouTube videos that are really helpful that are on our website. But for the most part, our curriculum, unfortunately, is all live and not recorded. So different types of programs, just trying to go back to where I had left off. Was there any other questions in the chat?
No, there were no more questions in chat. I do want to ask a question about that. Even though they are not pre-recorded, or even though they're live, I should ask, can they be shared, for instance, in a library programming space, broadcast, and then broadcast live for free in the library program space, or does it have to be an individual like me at home doing them?
No. Yeah, that absolutely can happen. And we do have places that are broadcasting our virtual programs. They're just not being recorded. But if you do have a space where you want to get a group together and view our programs at the same time live, you can certainly do that. And I know that some senior centers are currently doing that already. I'm sorry, but my slides seem to be frozen, so I can't go to the next slide. You know, technology, it's great, but you know, sometimes it does give us difficulties at the same time.
Yes, again, apologies, everyone. I'll also talk about how you can promote those programs in just a second as we get the slides back up here. It looks like my internet is back. Maybe not. All right, so Erin, if the slides aren't up, I can go through and just kind of talk about our next topic, which was, did you cover our center?
So just wanted to quickly talk about a little bit more about our center in Colorado. I know that a lot of you are calling in from different parts of Colorado. You're not necessarily close to the Denver area, but if you ever are in the Denver area or are close by, I would really encourage you to visit our center in East Denver. That's in Lowry. It's in a beautiful space. We've been reopened for about a year now. So we're really starting to get some traction and people coming back in. So people are coming in for a number of different reasons. So some people are coming in just for our curriculum-based programs. Some people are only coming in for our lectures or workshops. Other people are coming in for our 5 and 10 week courses. But then we also have community that people are just joining for socialization. So some people can just use that space as a working space, which a few people do. We have computers and devices that you can have access to. You can't really rent them out outside of the space, but if you're there Monday through Friday, from 9:30 to 5 p.m., you can really use that as your own space to work. We have computers, iPads, all types of tablets that you can use and use that as kind of a working station, which we have a lot of people that do. We also, like I said, building community outside of our curriculum-based programs. We really want people to have ownership over the space and make it feel like their space as well. So we do have people that reserve the space. There you can see it's that's the center. And we don't organize any book clubs, but we do have book clubs that meet there because participants themselves love to use the space and they rent it out. They reserve it to host their book clubs. And there are other social events. We have a local group, Ladies Who Wine, that use the space for a happy hour once a month. And you could see that's one of our, in the bottom right, that picture is a picture of one of those social events that we have. We're a little hard to find, so I'm going to mention this. We're located right across from Wings Over the Rocky Museum. So we're right behind the Lowry Beer Garden. We're kind of tucked back in that corner behind the Lowry Beer Garden. We're part of Hangar 2. So we're actually in one of the old hangars. So it's a really interesting architectural space. And the one other thing I did want to mention, and then I'll pass it over to Deidre, is about ways to get involved. We're really looking for volunteers. And anyone that would like to volunteer at our center, or if you are local, that would be great. We do have a lot of people that have taken our classes that really want to stay engaged with the space, that come back and volunteer. What a volunteer does is greet and give tours of the space. And then we also have volunteers that give one-on-one tech assistance. If you're not in the local Lowry, Denver area, that is fine. If you want to get involved with us in other ways, we also offer volunteer experiences virtually. We have a handful of volunteers that are working on our virtual programs, and they're assisting by co-hosting. They're monitoring the chat, and they are really helping to make sure our virtual programs go over smoothly, and they like to continue to come back because they see the same people, and it's really nice to be involved in that community aspect and that volunteer way. So I'm going to pass it over to Deidre. She's going to talk a little bit more about licensing and other offerings that we have.
Can you hear me still?
Yes.
Erin, can everyone hear me? Okay, all right, froze for a second. So
all right, well, while Deidre is frozen, I will keep talking until she comes back.
Freeze. All right, okay, let me see. Hopefully this will stay. Seniorplanet.org is something highly recommend taking a look at. But there's a couple of things, as I said, or Christy said earlier, you'll get this slide deck after, and these are all posted, these are all linked in the slide deck. So feel free to peruse. But a couple of things wanted to share. Seniorplanet.org, we host 65 or more virtual classes every week. So folks can join from wherever they are, wherever they live. But also what Christy was mentioning earlier, if you wanted to host one of those virtual programs at your library, that's definitely something that you can do. And in fact, I'm going to switch my screen share here and show you this little flyer template we've created for you all in order to make that really easy. So this is linked as a downloadable Word document, so you can use this and edit it to promote programs that you may want to host and screen at your library. So a couple of spaces for you to fill in location information, your organization name, and then upcoming classes, your logo, how people may want to sign up, things like that. So feel free to take a look at that. Use that to share any of those upcoming virtual programs. It could be those fitness programs that Erin was mentioning earlier, technology topics. We've got a program called Discover Live, where people get virtual tours of different places around the world. Really anything that you think would be of interest to the people you serve. Feel free to stream those, because that can be a great kind of low commitment way for someone to try out those Senior Planet classes, especially if they're not super confident going online themselves. A couple of other things that I wanted to show. So I've got this is our seniorplanet.org website right here. So you take a look, there's a bunch of upcoming classes, and I'm not going to point everything out, but a couple of things I did want to show here. One is our Zoom resources page. So if you're working with people who haven't gotten on Zoom before, or not super comfortable, and they want to join online Senior Planet classes on their own, we have a hotline number that they can call. And we also have a lot of classes about Zoom, some handouts, some video tutorials. It's really a comprehensive way to learn not just the basics of Zoom, but how to become more savvy with Zoom. And this has been one of our more popular resource pages that we've had. Another thing I wanted to share, and some of these will be a little bit duplicative, is our YouTube channel, where we have a playlist of tech tip videos. So I'm in the Senior Planet from AARP YouTube channel, going to playlists right here, and there are these tech tip videos. I'll keep that from playing for you all. But there is an entire playlist here, between like 1 and 3 minutes, of how to do very specific things. They're usually the things that we get the most questions about. So especially if you're, maybe a little understaffed at your library, you're getting a lot of questions from people on these things. This is a great place that you can share and show people that they can get a little bit of support for any of these topics. So I'll go back to my slides here. We also mentioned on seniorplanet.org, we also have a number of articles. So we have original content that's written by older adults for older adults. And so we've got a lot of topics on there. People tend to engage with those articles. They comment, they really enjoy that. So you can take a look at that. And then the hotline that I mentioned. So our hotline is a great resource. It's toll-free, open Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. Mountain Time. And our technology trainers are on there to answer some one-on-one questions over the phone. So if you have folks that want to, again, get engaged with Senior Planet a little bit more, that's a great place to have them call if they've got some, just general questions about their device, or they're trying to set up a cloud storage account and they're running into some trouble, or they're trying to update their computer and they're getting an error message, they don't know what it means. Maybe they got an email and they're not quite sure if it's spam or not. The hotline number is a great resource to share with them. Like I said, they get that one-on-one help over the phone. It's available in both English and Spanish and Chinese, Mandarin Chinese as well. So we've got flyers available linked here for that in English and in Spanish. If people call, they don't get someone live, maybe the lines are busy, they can leave a message and they'll get a call back. A kind of quick tip is to have folks save that hotline number to the phone so they know when someone is calling them back, because a lot of people think that they're getting a spam call. And then the last thing I want to call out on our virtual resources is Senior Planet Community. Senior Planet Community is an online social media platform, again, made just by and for older adults. So it's a group-based kind of engagement platform where people can post or react and comment around different topics. Some of our most popular groups are Fun with Photography, Decluttering. There's also a tech help group on there. There's a lot of different places that people can go just to share interests and chat about shared interests. So that's a great way that people can stay engaged with other people over using Senior Planet. So the next thing I want to talk a little bit about is our licensing program. So in a quick nutshell, our licensing program is the way that we work with other senior serving organizations to train and support them to deliver that in-person Senior Planet programming. There's really kind of 4 key components to the licensing program. It starts with a 5-week Train the Trainer series that's fully virtual. So we work with any of your staff or volunteers who want to become engaged with the program and train them in how to deliver Senior Planet. So they go through that 5-week series. We meet once a week, and there's some outside of class work as well. And that's supported by a digital resource center. So that will support your training as well as your program delivery. Both of those things, I said, are available virtually, even though the program is for in-person classes. So after folks go through that Train the Trainer, they're able to deliver and select from a large list of Senior Planet curriculum that's available. So those lectures, workshops, courses that Erin mentioned earlier, a lot of those are available to our licensed partners. If you schedule a course, we even provide that course book for you and your participants at no cost. So you'll be able to deliver locally relevant and locally responsive programming, Senior Planet programming. So you get that curriculum, you get the support of our team and the training, and then get to kind of pick and choose what makes the most sense for your community. The next piece we have is ongoing support and community building. So once an organization goes through Train the Trainer and becomes a licensed partner, they don't just kind of stop hearing from us. We really seek to build a community of all of our licensed partners. We work with groups across the country, and I'll say anecdotally, we work with a ton of libraries. We love working with libraries, and so we've got a lot of librarians and library staff who've become part of the program and can share, things that work really well for them or things that they may find challenging. We want to make sure our partners are supported not just from us, but also from each other. So we have quarterly meetings, we have monthly professional development opportunities. There's a lot of support that you get, like I said, not just from our team, but also from the rest of the licensed partners. And then, of course, a lot of the things I was just mentioning on that virtual resource slide, we highly encourage those who participate in our licensed partners programs to also join in for some of those virtual classes. Some of those things that aren't available, like the guest speakers or the fitness programs. A lot of people choose to take some of those Senior Planet classes in person and some of them online, kind of mix and match and do whatever makes the most sense for them. So a lot of different ways for them to engage and get some of those benefits.
Deirdre, I'm going to stop you to ask the question that I've asked you a bunch of times, and that
go right ahead.
Questions coming in. So, library wants to be a licensed partner, and they have the capacity to be able to do it. How much does it cost them to be a licensed partner?
It's a great question, and it hits my next slide right here. So one of my favorite things to share is there is no charge. So our licensing program is free. There is an application process to ensure that our team can support. We provide quite a lot of support for our partners, so we want to make sure that we've got the right staffing for that. So, but yes, there's no charge to become a licensed partner. There's no charge to Train the Trainer or to access those materials.
Deirdre was cut off there in what I consider to be possibly the most important bit of information.
Sorry. Yes, it is completely free.
Which is free.
Yes.
So say that again. It is free. Libraries, I would not be showing you this if you had to pay for it. Free. Go on.
Thanks, Christy. And my colleague Christina has joined us as well. She works with me on the licensing program. So Christina, I've been having some internet trouble today. So if I totally get cut off, I know you know this material kind of inside and out, so feel free to jump in too.
Sure.
But yes, just want to emphasize what Christy was saying. It's completely free of charge. There's an application process to make sure that our team can support the number of partners that we have. I'll share a little bit about those next steps in a little bit. A couple of other, more specifics. Like I said, it is that in-person experience. So for organizations to deliver in-person classes to the older adult participants. That said, all of that training is all online. So no one has to travel or have any travel budget or anything like that. We do that all virtually. And it's a little bit more than a year-long commitment. So if you start with the licensing program, you'll go through that Train the Trainer series, and then you'll start delivering your first quarter of programming. You'll be able to deliver 4 quarters of programming, but really we hope that our partners stay with us much long after that. So as you get towards that end of your first license term, we reach out and chat, make sure it's still working for everyone, and then hopefully have an extension signed for that agreement so you can kind of keep doing the great work. A couple of things that we like to call out. So even though the licensing program is free, there's a couple of resources that we look for partners to bring into that partnership. So they're on the screen here. The first one here is technology. So all of those hands-on Senior Planet classes that Erin was talking about earlier require a classroom set of devices. And so one of the reasons that we do this is because it can be really difficult as a trainer if you have everyone bringing their own device to provide them a really good classroom experience. You often spend a lot more time, troubleshooting one person's issue and then another issue. You're working on multiple operating systems or multiple versions of a device. It really takes away from building that digital literacy, which is the goal of our programs. So we do ask that partners have a classroom set of devices. Generally, we look for between 8 and 15 devices. They'll say for some of our more rural partners, they work with 6 devices, and that, really fits the needs of their community. So if you have any questions about that, feel free to reach out. We're always happy to chat more kind of on a one-on-one basis to see if you've got the things that you need or if it can work out. So like I said, we look for that classroom set of devices. Currently, we're supporting really anything that runs Windows. Android tablets, iPads, and Chromebooks. And Christy, see another question coming from you?
Yes, I just put into the chat. So this was another concern that I had and a lot of libraries have had, which is the capacity and the ability and just the hardware that we would need in order to run a program. So one of the things that I've put together is an interest form. I put the link in the chat right now. If you are interested but unsure where you fall into the can I offer OATS or run it at my program. So this is not the Senior Planet stuff. This is literally running the courses and the programs. There is the form, it's an interest form, but it also lists the technology requirements and variations of the technology requirements. And I put requirements in quotes as recommendations. Already some of you have reached out and asked about cost affiliated with not running the program, but with having the materials available. Please fill out that form. I will get back to you. I can act as an intermediary with OATS. And there's also other potential ways that we can work together. I put in the chat a link to the Northern New York Library Network's licensing program for a bunch of rural libraries up in Northern New York. Okay, we're not talking like Manhattan and the Bronx. We're talking like middle of nowhere. And they run OATS. So if they can do it, we can do it too. Like they're not that special. We've got this. All of that stuff is in the chat. I'm going to let Deidre and Erin keep going, but just know that there's a bunch of this stuff available to you. Okay.
Thanks, Christy. And I'll just underscore too, we're always happy to chat and think of different kind of creative ways to make the program work. One of the things, especially with the Northern New York Library Network, one of the things that they did is kind of combined a bunch of libraries together to become one licensed partner. And so they had a traveling set of devices. They had some even trainers who travel between different libraries. So if what I'm describing to you, you feel like it's, oh, I would love to do this. I'd love to participate, but I don't think I could do this, for 4 quarters of programming, that doesn't necessarily mean you can't do it at all. So definitely fill out Christy's form, let's have those conversations and see what could work for everyone. Other component to technology that I want to call out is an internet speed that's capable of hosting those programs. So again, in that recommendations document that you'll have, there's a way to test internet speed and make sure it's not going to be exorbitantly frustrating for participants, trying to access YouTube for the first time or anything like that. The next component that we look for partners to provide is that classroom space. So, really just a place for the classes to take place. We like them to be clean, quiet, inviting. I'll say again, anecdotally, libraries tend to already have a nice programming space already in the class or in the building. And so usually that's going to fit all of the needs of a Senior Planet program. The other component to that classroom space is having some way to project the materials so that all participants can see. So that could be either a TV, a screen, or a projector, something that will be able to hook up to the trainer's device so that they can either share the slides, websites, anything that they're showing the class. So some kind of way to make that work. Another piece that we like to say for both the technology and classroom space is that our partners don't necessarily have to own these things. So we do have quite a few partners, who actually partner with other groups in the community. We often send them, say, check out your local library. Sometimes they have a computer lab that you could run programs in, or community college, or other groups like a senior center that may already have some of these things set up that are capable of hosting the program. So again, just something to keep in mind if this feels like it's almost the right fit, but not quite right there. The next couple of things I want to touch on are the people who would be involved in the program. And so we've got a program administrator and a trainer or trainers. So first, for the program administrator, this is really going to be the person who's the primary point of contact for us at Oats, the person who's in charge of coordinating the local programs, coordinating the trainers, deciding on the schedule, making sure to order those course books with us, which again, I'll remind come at no cost to the partner. So there's someone who's kind of juggling quite a few different pieces of the program and are really, like I said, our primary contact. Their role begins pretty soon after an organization goes through that application process and is accepted. We work with them to provide some tailored support based on what the organization needs. Is there anything that they're a little bit more worried about or less worried about with the program? They meet with us and we chat with them to make sure that we can provide them the information, the support that they need. When we're looking at time commitment, this can really vary based on the amount of programming that you're running, but we estimate about 2 to 4 hours a week. So that really fluctuates throughout the quarter. You may imagine at the beginning of the quarter when you have you're signing everyone up for programs, you're advertising, first day of classes, making sure to help call people who didn't show up for the class, anything like that, going to be a little bit on that higher end. But in the middle of the quarter, if programs are running smoothly, trainers are doing their thing, there may not be that much to do, just kind of thinking about what you want to do the next quarter. So it could even be lower than that 2 hours a week. And then again, towards the end of the quarter, maybe on the higher end as you're getting ready for the next quarter, doing some of the reporting aspects of the program, closing out the quarter. So like I said, it's a little bit variable, but that's our estimate about. The qualities of a successful administrator. So for the groups that we work with, these are what we've found have been most successful. First and foremost, they're connected to their community. Not just that they know, the older adults in their community, what kind of programs they want, what times of day work best, but also for things like marketing or finding some of those other resources. They know where the older adults in their community like to go. What are other trusted resources? Where can they collaborate to share information about their programs? We try to provide a ton of support, but at the end of the day, we do look for someone who's a bit of a self-starter. If something happens and a classroom floods or there's some issue with the building, someone who's really comfortable and at making decisions, spot on, directing the participants, the trainers, what needs to be done, and just making those decisions. As you can probably tell based on what we've said, there's a lot of moving pieces. So someone who's organized, able to keep track of deadlines, due dates, anything like that is really important. We also have communicative on here. So, a lot of our licensed partners, things happen. We're all reasonable people, and so we try to be as accommodating as we can. But we do ask that our partners just stay in pretty good communication with us. If you're not able to run programming for a quarter because you lost a staff member or something else happens, we really just look for our partners to let us know so that we're not wondering. We're also not bugging them consistently. What's going on? What's happening there? And then also an administrator who can communicate really clearly with their trainers. So making sure that the trainers know exactly where they need to be, what programs they're running, and things like that. And then, of course, the available capacity. You may have all of these qualities and many, many more, but if you simply don't have the time, the administrator role may not be the best fit for you. Administrators attend a selection of those train the trainer sessions that I mentioned earlier. Train the trainers for both trainers and administrators, but we have a little bit of a more kind of streamlined and specific training for those administrators that, like I said, starts right about when you're accepted to the program. And so groups or administrators will take a portion of those 5-week sessions. I do also want to mention here, kind of again, calling back to that Northern New York Library group, how they structured things is their library systems had one administrator, and many of the libraries underneath them operated in the training role. And so the administrator may be, you may be like, oh, could we do this? Not quite sure. Again, something to think about and chat with Christy about in terms of, how we can make this happen. Next, want to touch a little bit on the trainer role. I will say, if you are thinking, a lot of this does seem like it would fit, we are happy and would love to become a licensed partner just on our own. The trainer and the administrator can be the same person. And so some of our partners, that works really well for them. There's kind of just one Senior Planet licensing person at the organization, whereas others may have that one administrator and, many, many trainers who work with them. But trainers, they're really the face of Senior Planet. They're the ones who participants are going to interact with the most. They're the ones who are going to set the tone for the class. And so the trainer is really a critical role. In terms of, again, time commitment, totally variable based on how many programs you run, but we put 5 hours or more a week here, and that's based on one of our courses. So our courses, those meet twice a week for 75 minutes each session. So you think with some prep time, maybe some travel time, maybe some data and administrative time, you maybe throw a lecture or two in here or there, you're getting to around 5 hours. But again, that could be, way lower or way higher based on what you plan. The qualities of successful trainers, really the most important one is that ability to create a warm and welcoming and inclusive learning environment. A lot of people come to Senior Planet classes, maybe having not great technology class experiences. They may be really nervous. They may even be, really hesitant to be there in the first place. We've had plenty of people who come in and just say, I don't really want to be here. And it's the trainer who's going to kind of set that tone and has the opportunity to really turn around their experience with technology and with technology classes. So someone who, again, not just has those qualities, but also is just genuinely excited to work with older adults, excited to help them achieve their goals, to share with them, teach them, and also learn from them in the classroom, and just to make a really fun experience for everyone there. In terms of how much technical knowledge they need, we certainly don't need IT experts as trainers. We provide a lot of materials for our trainers to learn the material before they teach it. That said, we do look for someone who has a proficiency in common technologies and devices. They need to be able to participate in that Train the Trainer series. So log on Zoom, use an online learning platform, things like that. So a general proficiency with common technologies and or the ability and willingness to learn any of the things that they don't know. More importantly, though, we'd say is the ability to communicate that technical information clearly to participants. So to be able to break down more complicated concepts, or to explain what some tech jargon is, and make that, again, just an accessible classroom experience. And trainers do attend all of that Train the Trainer series. So they go through all 5 of those live sessions. It culminates with a session on practice teaching. We actually just finished one today. And so at the very end of the session, at the very end of Train the Trainer, you get a chance to test out the materials, practice with them for 10 minutes or so to a group of peers, get a little of the first time jitters out. But also just get a chance to put it into practice before actually starting in the classroom.
Idra, I know that you have more, but do you mind taking a break? Because I do see some questions in the chat.
Yeah.
Have time for Q&A at the end, but we had a couple of questions. Someone asked, just to clarify, can we offer programming without becoming a licensed partner and making the time commitment? Like, say, I want to try offering a fitness class to older adults at my library. Can I do this?
Yeah, great question. So to screen those virtual programs, you don't have to be a licensed partner at all. In fact, if you're thinking maybe about being involved with a licensing program, that's a great first step just to see how the community reacts to it. Are people interested? Do they want more? So screening or streaming those virtual classes, which is the flyer that I showed earlier, is something you can do, starting tomorrow if you can get the word out and have people show up.
Okay, and then just 2 more real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
If we don't have the technology, could we still host the events and ask attendees to bring their own laptops? You did touch upon this briefly, but it'll be good to bring this up again. Many people have their own laptops at home and they can bring them in for training for the programs.
Yeah, so we do ask that we have participants not bring their own device, except for a couple of smartphone workshops that we have where we do have people bring their device, because having the data plan for a classroom set of smartphones gets really expensive very quickly. So except for a couple of those, we do ask that our partners have that classroom set of device. One other caveat with that is if there's a device distribution program that you're running or that you know of where all of the participants are for sure getting that same device, the same version, the same operating system, all of that. We have had that work with our Senior Planet programs where they can then bring that device back. But again, it can be really, really difficult for the trainer. We've gotten some feedback from people in those classes that it just doesn't make for a good classroom experience when everyone's on a different device.
Okay, just one more question and then we'll go back to the slide. But do you have to have administrators and trainers in order to offer Senior Planet programming?
Yeah, another good question. So you could have just one person that is serving both of those roles. And obviously the time commitment would probably be a little bit lower then, because you're not going to have to communicate with yourself. So that planning time, you're really just doing that for yourself. In order to stream those virtual Senior Planet programs, you don't need any of these specific roles here. This is really about the licensing program, which are those in-person classes. So if you're interested in getting involved with that, we do need someone in both of those roles, or like I said, one person serving both. But that could be a structure like we've talked about with Christy, where maybe a larger umbrella organization serves in that administrative capacity, and some of the libraries really primarily just serve in that trainer role.
I want to add to that, just to piggyback. I'll put the interest form in again. Just especially I could reach out to you even if you're unsure how to fill it out, because exactly what she mentioned before, the Northern New York did something very similar. I don't know that we have the capacity right now to do that, but if I don't get interest in people wanting to do that, then we could definitely never have capacity. So please fill out that interest form if this is something you're interested in. I do want to clarify, or just for the sake of clarification, ask a question again. If someone were to just show like the Senior Planet, like virtual programs, right, and broadcast them, and some of them are like the medical apps, like how to use a medical app. People can bring in their own devices and laptops for a program like that. It's the OATS curriculum. In other words, every one of us is going to learn like a very specific thing over 5 or 10 weeks where they should not and are asked to not, right? It's just two different. Yeah.
So and the names get really confusing. OATS and Senior Planet, we're really one and the same. So all of the classes are called Senior Planet classes, whether they're a course, a lecture, or a workshop. If you did stream those programs virtually, participants could bring in their devices and try to follow along. I'll note that most of our virtual programs are those lectures that aren't hands-on focused. Again, it's really difficult to offer a successful hands-on program virtually, which is why we veer more towards the lectures. But we have plenty of people who, you know, follow along with the trainer as they're going through that. Just understanding kind of the goal of that program is not to go step by step, you know, one thing after another to sign up for an app or explore a platform or something like that. So just wanted to kind of give a little bit of a shout out to our existing licensed partners here. And we've got a couple in Colorado, not pictured on this slide, unfortunately, but for those who are delivering those in-person Senior Planet classes, we've really had a great community response. We've had a Net Promoter Score of 80 and higher. Net Promoter Score, if you're unfamiliar, is a measure of how likely someone is to recommend the class, recommend the thing to someone else. And around 50 is considered world-class. So it's one of the metrics that we're most proud of. People really enjoy our classes. You can see they love their trainers. They would like to come again. And so it's really a testament to the great work that our partners are doing out in their communities. So we love to see this. So I'm not going to spend much time on these next couple of slides because you'll receive the slides after. This is more for if you'd be interested in, you know, all of what I've shared about the licensing program. You're like, yep, that sounds good. I'd love to start with that, or just one or two things need to come into place and I think I could start with it. This gives a timeline for how we typically work with partners in that licensing program, from application through starting that Train the Trainer series and program delivery. So take a look at this at your leisure. And if you have any questions about it, please reach out. I'll put my email in the chat again. So again, that just kind of a second slide on that timeline. But just wanted to do a little bit of a recap. I know we've given you a ton of information today, and I apologize again for my earlier tech issues. So if we, before we open it up for more Q&A, just wanted to recap kind of the 3 different ways to engage with Senior Planet. First, if you're in the area or you're traveling to the area and you want to come by our Denver Center, you know, please do stop by. It's, you know, really just fun to see the programs, to chat with the staff, the volunteers. So if you're around, it's a great place to go. Also, if you're in the area and have participants who could travel to that center in Lowry, you know, please share the information. We've got a lot of fun programs and events there. All of those are online. You can find the schedule at seniorplanet.org. So take a look there. For engaging virtually, again, that slide will have a lot of links on it for that flyer I mentioned, the hotline flyer, the list of classes, but you can stream those programs at your library. There's nothing you need to do with us or tell us in order to do it. You really just need to kind of pick which classes and, you know, take a look at the schedule that we have posted. It's usually posted about 2 weeks out, and then share those with people. You can also share the virtual programs and just other resources, even if you don't want to stream them anywhere. So you can share that with people that you serve, that licensing, or excuse me, that hotline number, the article, Senior Planet Community, any of those things that I mentioned. And then for the licensing program, you know, really the next steps are kind of depending on what you're looking for. Again, you could certainly just apply as your own organization and start that process. And so that would start with that application. Or you can reach out to Christy, fill out Christy's form, especially if you're in Colorado. I think most of us on the call today are in Colorado, to see if a bunch of groups can work together, what are kind of the missing resources, what are the next steps. And I put my personal work email in the chat earlier. This is also our licensing email address, which hits all of our teams. So if you have any questions specifically related to the licensing program, you can reach out there as well.
Great.
Right.
Deidre, I do see another question in the chat, but I just want to clarify real quickly about Senior Planet Oats. They're really one and the same. All of our programs are going to be called Senior Planet programs, whether they are a licensed program, an in-person program at our center, a program that's virtually, they're all Senior Planet programs. But the question that I have in the chat that I see is, once you're a licensed partner, are the Senior Planet programs limited to older adults, or are all ages welcome?
That's a fantastic question. So our programs are limited to those who are 50 and older. They're really built and written more for a 60 and older audience for a couple of reasons. Our education team writes them based on adult learning theory to make sure that they're written and delivered in a way that older people can best retain the materials. So you'll see a lot of connections to other things that they may already know. Our pacing is really moderate. There's a lot of review and repetition, hands-on practice. A lot of those best practices, both in how we write the curriculum and how it's delivered, is really targeted for an older audience. The other piece is that, again, I mentioned, a lot of older adults will come into the program really kind of uncomfortable or hesitant. And so having a group that is on the older side and a group of their peers can make that learning experience a lot less stressful. So, but a really good question. Got a couple of extra minutes here. I will put those emails again in the chat for folks. And then I know Christy does have, oh yes, a survey that she just put in the chat as well. Happy to hop on for a couple more questions, but Christy, I don't know how much time we want for wrap up.
Honestly, if any of you have questions, that's what's most important to me. The survey is just for our IMLS and LSTA granting this like state library talk. Please fill that out and let me know if this was interesting to you, if you want to see more of this, or maybe it wasn't interesting for you and you don't want to see more of this. It's also okay too. I'll read your responses. Again, many of our libraries do not have the capacity, the staff, the technology, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, to be a licensing partner, but there are so many ways to engage with this. And thank you so much for presenting. I believe, oh, Deidre put in her contact. I believe that our aging population, our aging in place population can be really served by so many things that Senior Planet has to offer. I put in the chat that, yeah, maybe you don't have the technology, but you have the space, and maybe the Tai Chi class is something that you can do, or there's like a conversation group for people in Cantonese and Mandarin. That's something that you can do. And maybe it's just a conversation group about a book that's been read. Erin presented on that too. That's also something that you can do. So all of us are served really by so much of the work and stuff that you guys have. All right, I think we're at the last minute. If no one else has any questions, thank you so much, Deidre and Erin and Christina, for showing up. Thank you all of our libraries who showed up today. Many of you have messaged me directly during this meeting, so expect that I'll hear from you again, or you'll hear from me again. And this is not the last time you'll hear about OATS and Senior Planet from the State Library, certainly not from me. So thank you all. I'm going to stop the recording and everyone will get the link and all the resources as well. All right.
Yes. And if you're ever in Denver, come visit us in Lowry.